Hey everyone, welcome back to the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself one teeny tiny little favor and make sure to give us a follow because I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing episodes I got coming on. Without further ado, let's get right into this one. So I've racked up close to 60,000 in debt. My credit score has dropped almost 250 points. And here's the best advice I could ever give you in life, right? Never take advice from someone who isn't currently where you want to be in life or hasn't already been there, right? Everything that I'm sharing with you guys is not advice. This is just me live documenting what's going on in my life because I done made some mistakes and I'm trying to get myself out of this hole that I'm currently in. And with that being said, welcome to season 1 of Road to Wealth. This whole season is dedicated to me getting out of debt. And I'm going to be documenting my journey and the steps I'm taking as I'm taking them live to become debt free. So at the time of me taking down this information, it's July 8th. So right now I'm recording, it's August 8th. But when I wrote down, I'm journaling where I'm at so that I can give you guys accurate information and timelines as to my journey. So at the point of where I was documenting this journal entry, it was July 8th, right? And so, and July 8th, here where I was at with my debt and my finances. So I had on my Chase Sapphire Preferred card, I owed $4,712. On my Chase Marriott Bonvoy Boundless card, I owed $4,845.40. My Bank of America card, I had $4,651.58. On my Amex Everyday card, $6,704.33, bringing me to about $20,901.43 in personal debt, right? On the business side of thing, I had 4 credit cards, right? I had the Chase Ink Cash, right? That was at $4,619.46. Chase Ink Unlimited was at $3,444.31. Amex Everyday Card was at $10,143.11, and the Marriott Bonvoy Business Card with Amex was at $9,538.05, bringing my total business debt down to 27,744 with 93 cents. So, right, total debt, right, for personal from this week, right, July 8th to last time in episode 2, the total debt decreased $747.53. So we're on the decline, we're going down, which is really good. We're paying stuff off, right? And then on the business side of things, right, I currently had 27,744 with 93 cents, and that's down 2,563. Sorry, that's down $256.36, not 2,000. Sorry, bringing my total debt to 48,646.36, which is down about 1,003 with 89 cents. So that is getting paid off, which is really, really, really good, right? And my monthly payments between all my cards right now is around 1,643 with 12 cents. So one thing I wanted to talk about really quickly is the difference between payment dates and closing dates. So this is a common misconception that a lot of people don't really understand. There's 2 dates usually. There's a payment date, and then 3 days after usually is your closing date. So what is the difference? The payment date is when you have to make at least the minimum payment balance on your card. So whatever that may be, usually it varies from card to card, to make sure you double check what yours is. So let's say, for example, my Chase Sapphire Preferred, my payment date is usually on the 10th of every month, and the payment is usually, the minimum payment is like $160 or something like that, if I'm not mistaken, right? So every month on the 10th, I have to pay at least $160, based on my balance that I currently have, right? Again, your minimum payment varies depending on what card you have and how much of a balance you have on that card, right? Mine's about 160, right? The closing date, again, is usually 3 days after the payment date, and then that's the date. The closing date is after that date. That's when the credit card, or whoever the debt owner, whatever. Let's say I have a card with Chase. That's when Chase sends over the information to the credit bureau to report to my credit report. So Again, the payment date is when you have to make your minimum payment. The closing date is when they send the info to your, the credit report, to the credit bureaus to report your credit. Here's where people get caught up. A lot of people will pay off their cards on the payment date, and then in between, because mind you, there's 3 days in between the payment and closing date, they'll purchase something that then spikes their balance back up. And then on the closing date, even though you made a payment, even though you made the minimum, right? On the closing date, they report the balance up to that point in time. So let's say you have a credit card and the balance is 1,000, right? Usually you want to have a zero balance. Screw what everyone on the internet's talking about, 30%, 10%. No, you want to have a zero balance on your credit card at all times. Treat it like a debit card, ideally, right? That's what I learned. Use your credit card like a debit card, not like a credit card. That is not your money. That is the bank's money, right? And you have to pay it back, right? But let's say you do have a balance. Ideally, you want it under 10, and then definitely want to make sure it's under 30. But let's say, again, at a balance of $1,000, right? You want to keep it no higher than 300 at any given point in time. So let's say the payment date is the 10th, right? So on the 10th, you make a payment of $150, right? Right, you make a payment of $150. That brings your balance down to now 150, right? Which is 15% of your total credit limit of 1,000, which is pretty solid. 15%, that is not going to negatively affect your score in most cases, right? Well, let's say on the 11th, you buy some new Jordans, right? You buy some new sneakers, right? And now you make that payment. Let's say the Jordans cost you 250. Now that brings your balance up to 400, which is about 40% of your credit limit. So now on the 11th, you buy your new sneakers, and then on the closing date, remember the closing date is usually 3 days after, so let's say the 13th. On the 13th, now your balance is $400, which is 40% of your utilization, which is bad, right? And now your credit score drops because your utilization is high. So if you're going to use your credit card, make sure it's not in between that little window of your payment date and your closing date. Because again, you could spike your balance back up and screw yourself over, right? You made the minimum payment on the 10th, right? You paid your 150. That brought your utilization down, but because then you made another payment right after, you made another purchase, right? That shot your balance back up, and now the credit report is saying that you have a 40% utilization, which is not good, and that can negatively affect your score. So that is the quick advice that I can give you guys, or the quick little tip that I've learned. Now, at this point in time, my credit score were on Experian 589, right? 588 on TransUnion and 596 on Equifax, which jumped pretty significantly from the weeks prior, or at least episode 2, right? Now that is pretty much it for this episode. My credit score, we're steadily approaching 600, so I'll keep you guys posted. And in the next one, I'll let you guys know what I'm going to be working on and where I'm at. So thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next Road to Wealth update.